Helikopter Service Flight 541. The AS-332L1 Super Puma was developed by Eurocopter for tough, long-range operations, often serving in offshore oil and gas transport. Known for its strength, the Super Puma had the capacity of carrying around 20 passengers and was a staple in Norway's demanding aviation routine, where helicopters frequently connect remote oil rigs in the rough, unpredictable North Sea. On September 8, 1997, a routine shuttle trip in the skies over Norway took a turn for the worse when Helikopter Service Flight 541 crashed into the Norwegian Sea, killing all 12 on board. Departing at dawn from Brønnøysund Airport and heading to the offshore FPSO Norn, an oil field located at a distance of about 50 miles from the Norwegian Sea, everything seemed normal until it wasn't. The helicopter's fatal flaw was buried deep within its machinery, a nearly invisible fatigue crack in the power transmission shaft. At around 6:50 a.m., the engine overspeed light flickered, suggesting that something wasn't right. Following the procedure, the crew checked the emergency list and continued their approach. But this wasn't a typical glitch. The crack's slow, silent spread had already set the tragedy in motion. Just minutes later, strange noises erupted in the cockpit. A thud, a crunch, then nothing. Falling from 1,800 feet, the helicopter hit the water, leaving the wreckage to sink 2,720 feet to the sea floor. A later investigation revealed that the aircraft's health and usage monitoring system had stored data hinting at rising vibration levels, which is an overlooked warning that, if caught, might have prevented the disaster. Alarmingly, the investigation found that there were no checklists or guidelines related to the situation, and the crew wasn't informed enough of how to act in such situations. The investigation further concluded that the crack was long in making, days before the tragic crash occurred, and thus, slight care and precaution could have saved the sky of this tragic event. Island Express Flight. On January 26, 2020, tragedy struck the skies above Calabasas, California, when a Sikorsky S-76B helicopter, on its way from John Wayne Airport to Camarillo, crashed, claiming the lives of all 9 people aboard. Among the victims were NBA legend Kobe Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, along with other passengers including baseball coach John Altobelli, his family, and basketball coach Christina Mauser. The helicopter's final flight took place under increasingly dangerous weather conditions. The aircraft, operated by Island Express, had flown this route before, but on this fateful day, the pilot Ara Zaboyan faced thick clouds, leading to disorientation. The National Transportation Safety Board concluded that the crash was caused by the pilot's continued flight into instrument meteorological conditions, which caused a loss of spatial awareness. Despite initially clear weather, conditions worsened as the flight continued, with visibility dropping to as low as 1 to 1.5 miles. By the time the pilot attempted to climb to avoid cloud cover, it was too late. The helicopter rapidly lost altitude and crashed into a hillside. Shortly after the incident, Vanessa Bryant, Bryant's wife, filed a lawsuit against Island Express and accused them of a wrongful death. The company responded by saying that the NBA star was well aware of the situation and the dangers associated and still chose to get on board and regarded the crash as an act of God. However, this wasn't the only lawsuit filed against this tragedy. Vanessa Bryant also sued the sheriff's office, leading to a trial where deputies' actions were condemned as an invasion of privacy. The jury awarded Bryant $16 million and co-plaintiff Chris Chester $15 million in damages. The incident shocked the world, and particularly the fans and family of Kobe Bryant, as well as the public at large, forever marking January 26 as a day of sorrow. Bristow Helicopters Flight 56C. Bristow Flight 56C was a Super Puma helicopter flight traveling between Aberdeen, Scotland, and an oil rig in the North Sea. On January 19, 1995, while en route to the Bray oil field with 16 oil workers on board, the helicopter encountered severe weather and was struck by lightning. The lightning strike caused significant damage to the tail rotor, and although the pilot managed to keep the aircraft in the air for a short while, the tail rotor eventually failed completely. The pilot was forced to perform an emergency auto-rotation to make a rough sea landing. The helicopter's pilot, Cedric Roberts, shared a long journey with Bristow Helicopter that started back in 1974 and was exceptionally experienced and trusted for this flight, yet this one event changed everything. The helicopter initially flew into a group of cumulonimbus clouds, a dangerous kind that could exert wind speeds up to 60 miles per hour. Once the hail started, the helicopter's ice detectors started blaring, but the pilots assumed it as a fake warning and that the detector was probably blocked because of ice. However, it didn't take long for the disaster to show its effects. Thanks to the helicopter's emergency flotation devices, the crew and passengers were safely evacuated onto a life raft despite the challenging weather conditions and high waves. The entire crew survived, marking this incident as a rare example of a crash where everyone on board was rescued. The investigation into the crash revealed that the lightning strike was likely received by the helicopter flying through a storm cloud. Further analysis also suggested issues with the helicopter's composite material tail rotors, which had a brass strip design, making them more vulnerable to lightning damage. This flaw contributed to the rotor blades being prone to explosion upon impact with lightning. However, further digging revealed that it wasn't just lightning that struck. It was a 30 billion watt static charge generated by its own carbon fiber tail rotor. The discharge damaged the rotor blades, and they cracked and broke off, leaving the helicopter to spin uncontrollably on its axis. Copterline Flight 103. The Sikorsky S-76C+, an aircraft weighing over 7,000 pounds, was a helicopter known for its advanced avionics and hydraulic systems. With a capacity of 13 passengers and 2 crew members, the Sikorsky helicopter was primarily designed for smooth, high-speed travel over water, perfect for the short shuttle between Tallinn, Estonia, and Helsinki, Finland. But on August 10, 2005, Copterline Flight 103's routine flight turned into tragedy shortly after takeoff. Only 3 to 5 minutes into the journey, the helicopter carrying 12 passengers and 2 Finnish crew members lost all control. At about 1,600 feet above Bay of Tallinn, the Sikorsky suddenly became unresponsive and began to rapidly fall. While the emergency flotation devices deployed, they failed to inflate in time, leading to a devastating crash as the helicopter hit the sea and quickly sank. When rescuers arrived shortly, they found only one rotor blade and an oil slick on the water's surface. The wreckage was later located 141 feet underwater. Tragically, all on board drowned, with 13 bodies recovered initially and the second pilot's body only found weeks later. The investigation determined the crash was caused by flaking in the plasma coating on hydraulic servo pistons, which blocked the return valves. This led to a total loss of control, with the crew aware of the issue just 35 seconds before impact. Bond Offshore Helicopter Flight 85N. On April 1, 2009, Bond Offshore Helicopters Flight 85N crashed into the North Sea, killing all 16 people on board. The helicopter, a Eurocopter AS332L2 Super Puma, known today as the Airbus Helicopters H215, was on its way from BP's Miller oil field to Aberdeen Airport. Just 11 miles northeast of Peterhead, Scotland, the helicopter experienced a tragic gearbox failure, causing its main rotor to break off mid-flight, leading to the crash. The pilots, Captain Paul Burnham and co-pilot Richard Menzies, had no time to react as the rotor detached. Initial recovery operations discovered 8 bodies near the crash site, with the remaining 8 recovered later from the fuselage, located 330 feet underwater. Investigations led by the Air Accidents Investigation Branch concluded the failure of a second-stage planet gear in the gearbox's epicyclic module was the cause. A missed metal particle alert 36 flight hours earlier hinted at the issue, but existing detection methods failed to identify the danger. The AAIB's findings resulted in 17 safety recommendations, completely changing helicopter maintenance standards to prevent such tragedies in the future. Paramount Airlines Flight. On June 3, 2007, a Paramount Airlines MIL Mi-8 helicopter crashed near Lungi International Airport in Sierra Leone, killing 22 people on board. This medium twin-turbine helicopter wasn't just any aircraft, but one that was introduced in Soviet Air Force in 1968 and holds the record of being the world's most produced helicopter, with over 17,000 units employed by 50 different countries. However, on this unfortunate day, Mi-8 was about to encounter an event that would etch its mark in the tragedies of aviation. Paramount Airlines had provided a crucial service, flying passengers between Freetown and Lungi due to the 3-hour road journey around the Sierra Leone River. On this particular flight, passengers included Togolese football fans who had chartered the aircraft to return home after cheering their team's victory over Sierra Leone in an African Cup of Nations qualifier. Tragically, Togo's Minister of Sport Richard Atipoe was among the deceased. The crash, reportedly due to mechanical failure, happened as the helicopter was attempting to land. According to witnesses, both Ukrainian pilots jumped from the aircraft moments before impact. The Russian co-pilot survived, though all other passengers died. The helicopter caught fire on impact, and response efforts faced severe delays. Key personnel were missing from the station, leading to airport staff to battle the flames with buckets of water until firefighters arrived 40 minutes later. The disaster led to serious consequences within Sierra Leone, including the firing of top aviation officials and the launch of a commission of inquiry. The government of Togo also sent a delegation to investigate the accident and honor the lives lost. CHC Helicopter Service Flight 241. On April 29, 2016, CHC Helicopter Service Flight 241, a Eurocopter EC-225 Super Puma, tragically crashed near Tromsø, Norway, while transporting 11 oil workers and 2 crew members from the Gullfaks B platform to Bergen. The helicopter was a twin-engine aircraft which could carry up to 24 passengers, a cabin attendant, and 2 crew members. The helicopter is primarily used for public service missions or VIP passenger transport, and this day was nothing different. Witnesses initially saw nothing unusual, but soon, the helicopter's rotor sound shifted, the aircraft fumbled, and then the main rotor assembly broke, causing the fuselage to plummet and explode upon impact. All 13 occupants died instantly, and much of the wreckage slid into the sea near Skitholmen. An investigation led by the Norwegian Accident Investigations Board and supported by teams from the UK and France pinpointed a mechanical fault rather than human error as the cause. The crash was caused by a fatigue fracture in one of the gearbox's planetary gears, possibly triggered by earlier structural damage. Authorities grounded the Eurocopter EC-225 globally after this, stopping operations of similar Super Puma models in commercial use. Some oil companies, including Statoil, announced they would replace the Super Puma with Sikorsky S-92 helicopters for future contracts, ensuring safety concerns. Thus, this accident left a lasting impact on helicopter usage in the offshore industry. Los Angeles Airways Flight 841. On May 22, 1968, Los Angeles Airways Flight 841, a Sikorsky S-61L helicopter experienced a catastrophic failure while flying over Paramount, California, tragically killing all 23 people on board. The Sikorsky S-61L, a land-based civil variant of the military SH-3 Sea King, was a medium-lift transport helicopter known for its enhanced cabin space and high capacity, catering to utility and airline operators. The S-61L and its amphibious counterpart, the S-61N, had become highly popular in airliner and oil rig support roles. However, civil operations proved challenging, with frequent incidents. The helicopter, en route from Disneyland Heliport to Los Angeles International Airport, suffered a sudden and deadly mechanical failure. At around 2,000 feet, one of the rotor blades struck the fuselage, setting off a disastrous imbalance that caused the remaining blades to break and the rear fuselage and tail to detach in midair. Pilots radioed a desperate mayday. "LA, we're crashing, help us!" moments before the helicopter crashed onto a dairy farm below, scattering wreckage and ending lives in an instant. Passengers included 9 vacationers from Ohio, a food executive, a mayor, and a university professor. This horrific incident, the deadliest U.S. helicopter crash of its time, brought to light the fragility of rotor safety, but the true cause of the mechanical failure remains a mystery. Was it a flaw in the rotor design, or something undetectable until that fateful moment? Columbia Helicopters Flight 47. On January 7, 2013, a tragic crash occurred near Pucallpa, Peru, involving a Columbia Helicopters Boeing Vertol 234 Chinook. The aircraft's main mission was to transport logging and rescue people trapped in forest fires and more such catastrophes. However, the helicopter was contracted by Talisman Energy Inc. for a petroleum exploration operation, particularly because of its impressive maximum and cruise speed. It took off from Pucallpa Airport, ferrying a sling load to a drilling site 180 miles away. Just 5 minutes into the flight, smoke was seen billowing from the aircraft, and it lost contact with the control tower. A large cloud of smoke was visible 4 miles from the airport, signaling the fatal crash. All 7 crew members, 5 Americans and 2 Peruvians on board, were killed. The helicopter had been in Peru for years, with Columbia Helicopters having long-term contracts in the region. The company dispatched a team to investigate the crash. Legal challenges followed as families of the victims filed lawsuits accusing Columbia Helicopters and Talisman Energy of negligence in maintenance and safety. The lawsuits, seeking compensation for wrongful deaths, emotional trauma, and lost earnings, at last added up to $110 million. The lawsuits targeted the companies involved in manufacturing, owning, and maintaining the Boeing Vertol Model 234, a civilian version of the military Chinook helicopter. The defendants included Columbia Helicopters, which operated it, Columbia Helicopters Leasing, which owned it, and Boeing, the manufacturer.